Hi, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. Happy New Year. We're in the month of January, and so we're going to look at the astrology of January 2024. All right, let's get started. Okay, so we're looking at the astrology of January 2024. I'm going to try to get through the whole month. And I will, I believe, timestamp it. So, but I'm not sure. I'll see how long I talk. All right. I should have this better planned out, but I just, some of it is a little bit inspired, so I never know what's going to come through. So we're looking at the first 2 weeks of January at least. And I did sort of go over this in my Kabbalah the January video specifically about the numerology and the Kabbalah of January. But so I'm going to sort of not really, I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, but this is primarily the astrology. And these are the major things happening this month. I mean, these first, let's see, looks like first 13 days of January. Starting with actually a Venus last quarter square between Venus and Saturn, and then followed by Mercury stationing direct on the first. It's interesting because we start the month, the first day of the month is actually a 10-1 vibration, which is the energy of change. And so it starts right away. As I sit here, today is actually the first. It's a little later in the day. Usually I get these out before the day, but December was quite busy and a lot of things. I had to put a lot of things out. So we're starting off right on day one here in January, and we've had a earthquake in Japan with a tsunami. 7.2, I think it was, and it was close to Kyoto, although it wasn't in Kyoto, it was in that general vicinity. Um, I may actually do a video on that chart, but I haven't looked at the chart yet, so you can keep your eyes peeled for that. We have within the first week Mars ingressing into Capricorn. Mars likes being in Capricorn. It's exalted in Capricorn. Week 2, we start with a last quarter square between Mercury and Neptune. Neptune and Mercury come together in these difficult aspects, squares, oppositions, conjunctions to a certain extent. In conjuncts, there can be confusion and difficulty seeing clearly a way forward. We also have in this week the Sun making a trine to Uranus that speeds along change and illuminates where change needs to happen. On the same day, the 9th, we have Mars making a waning sextile to Saturn. The squares this month are last quarter crisis and consciousness squares. The sextiles are sextiles of progressive change. So we have the combined energy in January of questioning authority and then wanting to move in a more humanitarian and Aquarian way. So that is a theme through January. On the 11th, we have the new moon in Capricorn. We're going to go into this more specifically, of course. That particular day of the new moon in Capricorn is a 20/2 day that's located here on the Tree of Life, which is connected to the planet Pluto. Pluto sort of sits on this path, connecting the mind, the reason mind, to our earthly experiences. On the 12th, Mars makes a waning trine to Jupiter. Um, the trines this month are trines of sharing our understanding, and they're trines of social rewards. So there's a lot of things sort of coming to points where it really requires us, and we have the ability and the capacity and the understanding to really sort of move into a better future, a more fair and egalitarian future. And hopefully we can we'll actually see that happening. And then on the 13th, Mercury follows Mars and ingresses into Capricorn. So let's look specifically at all of this that's happening. First aspect of the year, Venus square Saturn, a crisis in consciousness. Relationship fears, insecurities. The square between Venus and Saturn can bring up fears and insecurities within relationships. It may create a tendency to feel unworthy of love, struggling with self-worth, or a fear of rejection and abandonment. These challenges can be worked out through self-awareness and self-healing. These last quarter squares generally bring up the emotion of guilt, leaving things behind that you feel guilty about. Venus now at 4 degrees of Sagittarius, a little child learning to walk with the encouragement of his parents, the natural assistance of superior powers during crisis of growth. This is square Saturn at 4 degrees of Pisces, heavy car traffic on a narrow isthmus linking two seashore resorts, the mobility and intensity of interchange which makes possible and characterizes complex social processes. So there's this energy really of the last quarter square is quite parental in its nature anyway, but it's really about these symbols sort of, and there's a crisis here, right? But it points out the need for us to learn to live together in harmony in the situations we find ourselves in, no matter how crowded they may be, and the challenges of that. If we look at this chart, we can see that Saturn is in the second house, whereas we have Venus in the 10th house. This is a chart for the US. Um, and this cycle of Saturn and Venus actually began when there was the conjunction of these two planets. We've come to the 3/4 part, but this is really a natural time for us to question authority and to, in a way, become authorities in our own lives. In order to do that, we must value what we understand to be true about ourselves and what's important to us. The last quarter square is also a crisis in faith energy, and Saturn and Venus are in signs associated with faith and spirituality and religiosity. And so there's some questioning around those issues as well. We have also happening today, yay, we have Mercury stationing direct. It's stationing direct at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. This is interesting because the 23rd degree of Sagittarius, the Sabian symbol, is a group of immigrants as they fulfill their requirements of entrance into a new country, consciously accepting the ways of new stages of experience in readiness for the opportunities it will present. Keywords, what is asked for here is self-containment and good humor. This is would include people coming into a country that they haven't lived before, that they've endeavored to move into, right? But it really doesn't just apply to new immigrants. In a way, we're all kind of new immigrants in this new world that is being born. At this time through our evolutionary process. The ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter. And so I look to Jupiter, and we have Jupiter moving direct. It moved direct on the 30th of December. And it's 6 degrees of Taurus, freshly direct, a cantilevered bridge over a deep gorge. Overcoming is the word. Finding a way to end separation and form group consciousness, building bridges to end separation. These are the first aspects to happen as we move into 2024, pointing us in the direction that we need to go, building bridges, building bridges. Okay. It was the message at the end of the year, and it's the message at the beginning of the year, the end of last year. On the 4th, we have Mars ingress into Capricorn. This vibration of the day is a 13-4. It's associated with the death card. It has to do with letting go of that which no longer serves, to build new foundations for the future, quite frankly. Mars ingressing into Capricorn. Mars is in its dignity and now and is in charge of the North Node, and Chiron in Aries. It disposits those two placements, and so the North Node in Aries has this energy of becoming an authority in your own life, Capricorn, right? And being responsible. So we need to move in the direction of responsible action here, because of course we're talking about Aries and we're talking about Mars. Um, the first degree of Capricorn, an Indian chief claims power from the assembled tribe, the power and responsibility implied in any claim for leadership. Okay. And we look at Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn, to see where that's sitting. And we still have it at that 4 degrees of Pisces, heavy traffic on a narrow isthmus linking to seashore resorts. If anybody's had the opportunity to go to a place, I grew up in New Jersey, and there are places where there's a lot of traffic getting in and out of these beach resorts. And so we can appreciate like everybody sort of wanting to go to relax, but getting there sometimes is not quite that relaxing. There is a limit to the level of exchange between people within a network before penalties of heavy traffic are encountered. Finding your way to negotiate when overcrowding brings limitation. How do we act responsibly on a relatively overcrowded planet, a relatively overcrowded planet? And we can see Mars ingressing. This is a chart for the US. I do most of the charts in these for Washington, D.C., so it's sort of a US chart. But we can see that this Mars ingress is occurring in the 10th house for the US. And so it does sort of require us to be responsible as perhaps a world leaders. And there's that Mercury that just turns direct up there as well. Okay. All right, let's continue. On January 8th, we have Mercury make a last quarter square to Neptune. This is actually the last of 3 exact last quarter squares, with Mercury at 26 degrees of Sagittarius and Pisces at 26 degrees of, and Neptune, excuse me, at 26 degrees of Pisces. The interesting thing about this is the initial conjunction, which occurred on May 16th of 2023, vibrating to a 28-1 vibration, meaning a new, this is anytime there's a vibration into a 1, it's about something new, something pioneering. And it actually, the initial conjunction happened at the same degree that Neptune is at now. And that was the fallacy of totalitarianism, watching a very thin moon crescent appearing at sunset. Different people realize that the time has come to go ahead with their different projects, a keen appreciation of the value of individualized responses to any challenge in life. In totalitarianism, there's only one response. It's the response that the person in charge wants us to all have. But we all have different abilities and capacities, and we need to utilize those to make the best of it, to live in a society where everybody is doing their best, and it actually creates a much stronger society. And we have now Mercury at 26 degrees of Sagittarius, making that last quarter square. You can see to Neptune, and a flag bearer in a battle, the nobly accepted subservience of the individual to collective values and goals, consecration to an ideal. And so what's the ideal situation here? Interestingly enough, this day vibrates to a 17-8, which is the star card, which is finding your guiding star. It is a card of hope and often seen as the card for America, the great hope of freedom and equality. Of course, we have a long way to go in this country. We know that. But at least we have the idea. At least the idea is there, something to aspire to. And this last quarter, square between Mercury and Neptune can be somewhat confusing, but if we can align ourselves with the idea that each one of us being our best selves, different from everybody else, will create the kinds of society that will survive and then ultimately thrive. On the 9th of January, the sun makes a trine to Uranus. The sun is at 20 degrees of um, Capricorn, Uranus, 20 degrees of um, Taurus. The Sun trine Uranus transit makes you more open-minded, adventurous, experimental, and progressive. Heightened intuition can lead to flashes of insight and glimpses of the future. So this is a really good day to get a glimpse of the future for yourself. Trine, this is a trine of understanding and social rewards. The sun at 20 degrees of Capricorn, a hidden choir is singing during a religious service. This is a symbol of spiritual fellowship in a flowing trine to Uranus at 20 degrees of Taurus. Wisps of wing-like clouds streaming across the sky, the awareness of spiritual forces at work. So we have this energy of being supported in spiritual fellowship while spirit is working in tandem with us. We are not alone in this journey. Spirit is here to help support us, and we need to connect with that. This cycle actually began back in 2023 on May 9th, which was actually a 21-3 vibration, which is a vibration of manifestation. It's the world card in the tarot. And the symbol was the new continents rising out of the ocean, the surge of new potentiality after a crisis. 2023 was quite a crisis year. 2024 will have its own crises as well. But there is this sense of having gotten over some sort of hump here and really sort of working into and for a better future with this energy. On January 8th, Mercury makes a last quarter square to Neptune. Mercury and Neptune together, I say, can create some, let me see, did I already do this? Was that Mercury and Neptune? I might have done this already. Yes, Mercury and Neptune. So sorry. I think I went backwards. That's what happened. Okay, sorry about that. I went backwards. It's like, no going back. We also have on the 9th, Mars making a sextile to Saturn. Mars waning sextile to Saturn regulates your energy to give you the determination and endurance to succeed. Very positive card, right? Very positive energy. You can methodically plan out your course of action in the most efficient way. This is one of the reasons why this January is a good January to have resolutions. Not all Januaries line up with our resolutions, but this is a good January to do that. And if we can connect our own sort of resolving to be more actuated, more healthier, more maybe directed, if we can actually connect that to improving the world at large, it's even more powerful, I think. Mars and let's see, this is an opportunity to bring forth progressive change on the seeds planted at the Mars-Saturn conjunction. Now we have to go all the way back to 2022 for that. It occurred at 23 degrees of Aquarius, a big bear sitting down, waving its paws. The discipline of self-control. The more we learn to control our animal nature, the more we can have it available as a resource. Our animal nature is our instincts, but we need to train our instincts so that we can live in society. All right. So this is a pretty nice energy. The fact that Mars is in a sign that's ruled by Saturn and Saturn, of course, is in Pisces. And we're looking at the vibration of this day is actually a Pisces vibration, the moon. And so there is a certain amount of um, emotional ups and downs that this can manifest itself as, and we just need to remember that we need self-discipline. There's a lot of self-discipline here that's necessary at this time. We have to know the purpose of why we're here. We had 2023 to help us delineate our purpose. That's what the 7 year helped us do. Now we're in an 8 vibration year, and 8 is as you sow, so shall you reap. So the actions that you take will have consequence immediately, and the actions that you've been taking over the last 7 years are also coming to fruition. We can go back to 2017 when we were in a 1 vibration. On Thursday, January 11th, 111, we're in the 20/2 vibration, which is the judgment card, the wake-up call, as it were. We have a new moon at 21 degrees of Capricorn. The symbol for that is a relay race, the value of competition in developing group consciousness. Wherever this symbol appears, it emphasizes the value of group cooperation and of a necessary give and take. When I was in grammar school, I was on the track team, and I wasn't that fast really, but I was a good team player. And my cousin's boyfriend was the track coach. So I don't know if he let me run because I was my cousin's cousin, his girlfriend's cousin, or if I had any real ability. But I was on the relay team, and when you're on a relay team, you have to hand the baton to each other, and very often your team could lose if you drop the baton, because then you'd have to pick it up and run. But there was a way that we were taught to accept the baton by the other person and then run for our lives until we got close to the next person in line. And there was cooperation needed in order to run the race. And so again, we have this symbol of cooperation needed as we face 2024. Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, of course, so always look at the ruler of the sign of the new moon, has moved to 5 degrees of Pisces. And this is a church bazaar, the value of giving a spiritual or transcendent sanction to even the most commonplace interchanges between social persons and individual minds. It's as if every action that we take and every cooperative action we take with each other has a spiritual significance. It's not just mundane stuff. Everything has the energy of spirit. This new moon, this is a new moon for this is this US chart, new moon. And we have this new moon in the first house, taking responsibility for ourselves. And it's pretty close to Pluto. We see Pluto there. It is balsamic to Pluto. And so this is anytime things are balsamic to another planet, it really is about extracting meaning out of a situation. It has the energy of Pisces, which is also very spiritual with Saturn in Pisces, right? So there is, again, a spiritual feeling to every action and every decision that we make. This particular uh, new moon is square the nodes of the moon. Okay, so the moon is actually square its own nodes. The resolution node is the south node in Libra, up there in the 9th house. This requires us to reevaluate our relationship to foreign places, okay, and also our relationship to law and justice in order for us to move forward with that node in the north node. the North Node is our direction forward, the direction of our evolution. It's also in a very close conjunction to the United States Chiron. And this year we're going to be having our Chiron return. I did do a wrap up of 2023 and a look ahead at 2024, where I talked about both the Pluto return and the Chiron return, our fifth Chiron return that's going to happen in the United States in 2024. So you can check that out if you want to know a little bit more about the Chiron return. But we are being, right at the very, very beginning, put on notice that we need to relate to others in a different way and be responsible in the way that we relate to others. And I can't help but think that this may very well be connected to both the Ukraine and Gaza. So we'll see how that pans out. I guess later. Okay. Friday, January 12th, we have Mars make a trine to Jupiter. This is lovely energy. When we have trines, there's nothing that gets in the way. Everything is like a smooth flow. Jupiter is an energy of expansion. Mars is the energy of action and energy. And so we can see things moving very, very quickly. Things are starting to move very, very quickly. And we'll see that next week. Uh, um, it even gets even more intense. What's happening is we're sort of starting a little slow in January with Mercury going direct right the first day. It takes a couple of days for Mercury to get its speed up, and it also is still in the shadow of its retrograde, so it's not quite out of its retrograde influence, but we can see things starting to move forward with opportunities, flow, and challenges ahead, and also hints that we need to move, of course, in a more Aquarian direction, right? Next week we have Pluto move back into Aquarius, but we'll talk about it when we get there. All right, so Mars waning trine to Jupiter. The good fortune you enjoy comes from your strong self-belief and good intentions. Good intentions, guys. This is a social reward aspect for the Mars-Jupiter synod that began back in 2022. Right? Mars has 2-year synodic cycles with planets. So it usually takes 2 years for that cycle. It takes 2 years for about 2 years for that cycle to end. So a lot of the things planted by Mars occurred back in 2022 with these aspects. The interesting thing about that is that this year, 2024, on the Tree of Life, the path that is activated through the 8 vibration is the path that connects Mars to Jupiter. So this day, the 12th, is very important. Even though the synodic cycle began back in 2022, it's a significant time because it's activating that 8 vibration. And 8 is as you sow, so shall you reap. So we will see something manifest itself for good or ill at this time with this aspect. So we'll see what happens. The initial conjunction where we have this trine sort of coming to fruition, social rewards of this trine, is 2 lovers strolling on a secluded walk. The unstable, energizing polarization of feminine and masculine energies, balancing the inner feminine and masculine polarities. So this requires us to come from a very balanced place of masculine and feminine. We'll see how we do with that. Mars is now at 6 degrees of Capricorn. Completion. It is both wise and necessary to finish what you have started if we want to progress without being called back later. So this is a time when you really sort of have to tie up some things that you hadn't quite finished in 2022, 2023, whatever that applies for you, you have to pay attention to. It is trine Jupiter at 6 degrees of Taurus, overcoming, finding ways to end separation and form group consciousness, building bridges to end separation. building bridges to end separation. So we've really gone as far apart as we can. Now it's time to come back together and make the changes that are necessary and create the world that we all deserve to have, no matter your race, no matter your religion, no matter where you live, no matter how much money you have. We are all one, guys. And this day is vibrating to a 21-3, which is the world card, which is endings and new beginnings. So it's also a Saturn card. So it's about taking responsibility. We can see here with Mars in the first house for the US, trining that Jupiter in the fourth house in Taurus. Um, Really, this, into a certain extent, is about utilizing our resources and our energy to help stabilize um, the country. We'll see how that works. Not everybody is into stabilizing the country, it seems. On the 13th, we have Mercury ingress back into Capricorn. Of course, we know that Capricorn first degree is about claiming power. When the community security is threatened, then those who can and will claim a position of authority and take command. We have Saturn again at 5 degrees of Pisces, bringing sacredness to the conscience, bringing sacredness and conscience to the marketplace. Money can be managed without the poison of greed, interacting with others with integrity and lightness of being. Interestingly enough, um, we have Mercury moving into Capricorn, right? Like this energy of star Capricorn's cardinal. It's starting something. Capricorn is about really earthly things, right? Starting an authority, and we have the Fool energy here. So this can be a little bit of a leap of faith um, here. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at week 3. And it starts with Sun making a sextile to Neptune. This is a lovely energy. These sextiles, again, are in the direction of progressive change. On the 18th, we have Mercury making a waning sextile to Saturn. So we have the Sun and Mercury making these waning sextiles. Again, waning sextiles move in the direction of progressivism. On the 19th, Mercury makes a waning trine to Jupiter, just the way Mars made that waning trine to Jupiter, and Venus makes a last quarter square to Neptune. We're going to go over all of this. On the 20th, this is a big day. This is a big shift, okay? 2911 vibration located here in Bina. Okay, this is a Saturn. This is the Sephiroth of Saturn. We see the Pisces symbol because Saturn is in Pisces all year. This is a big day. It starts with the conjunction of Pluto and the Sun at the last degree of Capricorn, a secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. The power to assume responsibility for crucial choices arrived after mature discussion with those who share this power. Keyword here is executive power. Right after that happens, the Sun will ingress into Aquarius, followed by Pluto in Aquarius. And the Sabian symbol, of course, for 1 degree of Aquarius is an old adobe mission in California, the power inherent in all great human works to endure far beyond the worker's lifespan. The 1st degree of Aquarius doesn't say throw the baby out with the bathwater, that all structures that were created through the labor of man uh, no longer stand. It really is uh, about sort of basing the sense of the Aquarian energy, right? Raising all boats based on the things that are still worth and still remain. Okay. It's interesting. This was, of course, the degree that Saturn and Jupiter conjoined at on winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, in 2020. Of course, 2020 was that pivotal year of crisis for us. 4 year. 4 is about crisis and building foundations. And at the end of that year, we were asked for society, because we're dealing with the two social planets, to move in the direction of Aquarius, raising all boats, folks. On Sunday, the 14th, we have Venus make an inconjunct to Uranus. Learning to let go of the past means being open to the possibilities that some relationships may no longer serve your growth. If, as my kitty cat meows, it is important to reassess the patterns and routines that may be holding you back, and challenge them with a sense of rebellion. If you look at this inconjunct between Venus and Uranus that we have right here, we can see that Uranus is part of a Yod configuration with the South Node in Libra. Pluto had been square and is still like just about out of square if we give it a 10-degree orb with the nodes of the moon. So Pluto has definitely taken the pressure off, but the resolution node when Pluto was square the nodes was the south node. So we've been renegotiating our contracts for a while now. Okay, so this is the point in the cycle when you are getting flack from the outside that requires you to make adjustments on the emotional level. This cycle began back on May 30th of 2023 at 17 degrees of Taurus, a symbolic battle between swords and torches. Refusing to depend upon the past, the seeker turns warrior, fighting anew the great war. The great war is the war of the ego versus spirit. The swords are ego, mental, and the torches are fire, spirit, and spirit always wins. Okay. Venus at 20 degrees of Sagittarius, the awareness of spiritual forces at work in conjunct Uranus at 20 degrees of Taurus, the foresighted use of natural resources to supply future needs. And so it's as if spirit is saying, guys, what are you doing? What are these relationships about? Why are you fighting? It's time to free yourself from that, because there are things that are more important, like survival and thrival on planet Earth, guys, on planet Earth. On the 15th of January, my grandmother's birthday, Grandma Josephine. God, how old would she be now? Oh, I don't know, 130 or something. The sun makes a waxing trine to Neptune. You have an ease in using your imagination to source and help guide your purpose and vocation. This comes in handy because we are being asked to sort of come out of these relationships that no longer really serve our growth. And so what do? Well, you're inspired through this energy of the sun and Neptune, illumination of what spirit has to say about moving in a more progressive direction. The opportunity for progressive change. This synod began on the 15th of March. Beware the Ides of March. I love to say that. At 26 degrees of Pisces, the fallacy of totalitarianism. Haven't we figured this out? Yeah, I think we have. Now we have the sun at 26 degrees of Capricorn. Nature spirits dancing in an iridescent mist of a waterfall. The ability to perceive the hidden and creative spirit of natural phenomena. It's time for us to move away from these conflicts that we have with other human beings, because we're right, they're wrong, this is that. Ultimately, we're all on the same planet. We all have the same needs. And if we were to take the energy that we spend fighting each other to help each other, we could have heaven on earth in 5 years, maybe less. And spirit is here to help us. as really are the aliens, but that's another story for another day. We won't talk about that. On the 16th of January, an Ace of Wands day. This is about new creativity. We have Mercury making a sextile to Saturn. These again are progressive sextiles, the energy of Aquarius. We're in the Aquarius age, guys. Let's utilize this energy. Excellent for clear thinking, good judgment, and organizational skills. This is a good week to get your stuff done. I almost said something else, but you know what I mean. Get her done. This is the week. Time for progressive change on seeds planted at the Mercury Saturn conjunction, which occurred back on 2nd of March of last year at 30 degrees of Aquarius. Wow, what does that say? Deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture, spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds are merged into the glowing light of a unanimous consciousness is revealed to one who has emerged successfully, fully from his or her metamorphosis, a vision of the universe as a point of radiant light. We are all inspired. I mean, look at these symbols. Look at this card. Look at these opportunities we have. Can I say it again, guys? Let's get our stuff together and start working on making the world the best place that it can be. Working with spirit, working with the spirit of the earth and Gaia and nature. We have enough technology where we don't have to do it the old way anymore. A new continent is being born here. We also have Mercury make a waning trine to Jupiter. This is actually the third of three. I spoke about this in my video on Chiron return, I think. And I did make an error on the Sabian symbols, although what I said in that video is definitely worth listening to because uh, that the Sabian symbol I mentioned has been used over and over again anyway. But these are the Sabian symbols for this trine. And this trine actually happened in December. Mercury went retrograde. It happened again. And now this is sort of the culmination. So this is bringing that December energy into for sort of like the final like lesson connected to this. And of course, this is the trine of social rewards. So this is part of the synodic cycle that began with Mercury and Jupiter, the Mercury and Jupiter conjunction, because every synod begins with a conjunction. At 19 of Aries, it occurred on the 28th of March back in 2023. So 3811 vibration, the initial instinct of this, which is found in Bina, which is about the divine feminine, and it is the Queen of Cups, right? The Queen of Cups, the sensitive, tea and empathy queen who sees all. Even if the cup is covered, she still knows what's going on. She is psychic. This is a Scorpio vibration and the sustainer of the element of water, which is feminine, and it's located in the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life associated with the divine feminine. So this is really the goddess sort of speaking to us. But this started at 19 degrees of Aries, the magic carpet of Oriental imagery, the use of creative imagination on the Tree of Life, the use of creative imagination, and the path of creative imagination is the path of the Empress. And the Empress connects the Sephiroth of the divine masculine with the divine feminine, Hokmah, wisdom, to Bina, understanding. Okay. We are in on the 19th, a 28-1 vibration, which is about visualizing, putting yourself out in the world. And what do you want to put yourself out in the world as or for? What do you represent? What do you know about yourself? And what do you want to share with the world? Okay. So we have, let's see, where am I here? The key, so the magic carpet, this The use of creative imagination, keywords here, right? This was the initial conjunction. Now we're at the social rewards. Now this is when we get to share our experiences with each other so we can grow together and build a better society. The key word at that time, the initial conjunction, the strife transcending an unattached outlook upon everyday reality. How do we transcend the awful things that we're seeing all around us? And let me tell you, 2023 was yeah, well, it's kind of been that for a while, hasn't it? At least since 2017. Now we're at the point of the cycle of social rewards and sharing our understanding with Mercury at 7 degrees of Capricorn. A veiled prophet speaks, seized by the power of God, the ability to act as a mouthpiece for the revelation of a transcendent will and truth, determining future action. We are in a very, very powerful time, guys. And then Jupiter at 7 degrees of Taurus, the woman of Samaria at the ancestral well, the meeting of traditional past and the creative spirit pointing to the future. If you read anything in the Sabian symbol book, read this symbol. It's very, very interesting. And you can get that right online. You don't have to buy the book. You can look at mindfire.ca. I think .ca might be Canada, but I'm not sure. And it's got the whole Sabian symbol, the whole book, or actually not the whole book, the whole discussion of the Sabian symbols by Dane Rudger. Definitely worth a look at. And there's also something else about this symbol. Chiron and Saturn have been moving together. We had a Chiron Saturn conjunction back in, I think it was 1966. And the next Chiron Saturn conjunction is actually occurring at 7 degrees of Taurus. So this symbol not only determines, we're getting the energy of the symbol now, but the next Chiron Saturn conjunction will be at this and I believe it's happening in 26, but don't quote me. Might be a little bit further than that. I don't remember off the top of my head. A lot of stuff to try to remember in my head. On the 19th, Venus makes a last quarter square to Neptune. Crisis in love due to illusion and over-idealization with rebellious overtones. This synod began back on February 15th of last year at 25 degrees of Pisces. A religious organization succeeds in overcoming the corrupting influence of perverted practices and materialized ideas. The power of the soul to intervene in the personal life and to induce necessary catharsis. And again, we have these symbols: Venus at 26 of Sag, the flag bearer, the nobly accepted subservience to individual and collective values and goals, squaring the fallacy of totalitarianism. Okay, so, and it's interesting because there's been a lot of stuff happening with the Catholic Church and the Pope, and him sort of changing the rules, and people kind of the traditionalists going, "What?" Right? So we can see that actually happening within the church, which is kind of it's implied here, but it's not just about the church, of course. All right, here's the big day, guys. January 20th, 2911, waiting for our ships to come in. We have a conjunction between Pluto and the sun at the very, very, very last degree, ta-da, of Capricorn. Capricorn, like a period at the end of a sentence that we're not quite done with, because on September 1st, it moves back into Capricorn and stays there till Joe Biden's birthday, the 20th of November, which in that time period, of course, includes the presidential election for the U.S. So this is pretty important symbol. And of course, this is the secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. The power to assume responsibility for crucial choices arrived after mature discussion. well, with those who share. And of course, I always have to look at Saturn when we're dealing with Capricorn. And we have Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, at 6 degrees of Pisces. It's moved on since the last time we looked at it. A parade of army officers in full dress, the dedication of human beings to the service of their community, and the assurance that it will be emotionally sustained by the people at large. The key word here is group responsibility. We need to act responsibly. Okay. This conjunction for the U.S. occurs in the 11th house. That is the house of the Senate and the Congress, or the Congress, the Senate and the House. Acting responsibly, we'll see. This is also the 20th, which is a year before the next inauguration. So we'll see what that means. At the next inauguration, Pluto will be in Aquarius. Will be in Aquarius. And probably making a conjunction to the sun in Aquarius. Different, a whole different, we're going in on a whole different path, guys. A whole different path. But we do have to make it through 2024 before 2024 before we get there. When the sun makes a conjunction to Pluto, Pluto is found in Kether along with Neptune, two transpersonals found up in Kether. This is our connection to spirit and source. And then the sun here is in Tiphereth. And so when we have these conjunctions of the sun and Pluto or the sun and Neptune, we have direct connection to spirit from our crown to our heart. So we're being seated, right, with this energy of the high priestess. This is the high priestess path. And so this is a download of information to know, but to keep silence. You have to hold it in your heart. Okay, hold it in your heart. And then we have the sun ingress into Aquarius. Here we have the sun in Aquarius. And the sun is now on this path, which is the Aquarius path. Now, the sun, when it was in Capricorn, was on this path. And when Pluto's in Capricorn, it's on this path since 2008. It is now here. And it's connecting Venus, the divine feminine, with the moon. The moon and Venus are the two feminine energies of the classical 10 planets that astrologers work with. And so this is really a illumination with the sun there, and then a transformation when Pluto moves there shortly on the same day, but then for 20 years. And this is really a continuation of the rising of the feminine, the rising of the feminine. So the sun ingresses into one of Aquarius, an Oladobi mission, lasting values, values that remain with Saturn at 6 degrees of Pisces. Why Saturn? Because we're dealing with Aquarius. Aquarius has two rulers, Saturn, its classical ruler, and Uranus, its modern ruler. So we have Saturn at 6. This is the same symbol that we saw with the officers on parade, a support for community service, and Uranus at 20 degrees of Taurus, spiritual forces, really, you know, to say God got us, all that is on our side, is accurate. And I also would say that being connecting with the God within or the goddess within, or both, because we have both sides in all of us, is also connecting with spiritual forces, the energies and beings from other realms expressing themselves through our willing participation. Could this be aliens? Probably. Are we aliens? Probably. You know, we're all connected, guys, on some level. We might have started in different places, but we are all connected in spirit. And now we have Pluto moving into Aquarius. same symbols, right? Because it happens shortly thereafter. And we can see in the United States chart, this is happening in the 5th house. We have a Virgo ascendant. Virgo is about fixing what's broken. We have Saturn in Pisces, Saturn in the house of friends and open enemies. Saturn in Pisces requires um, a, 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 a dissolution, perhaps, of some of our relationships with friends and enemies here, possibly. Here we have again Pluto here, the sun here in Aquarius. In Aquarius, the same path is being activated as the sun Pluto conjunction. Only now the energy is the energy of Aquarius. This is the Three of Wands in the Spirit Tarot of the Spirit, one of my favorite tarots. It's called The Birth of Lights. I love this tarot card. This is like one of my favorites. And I also have a stained glass window over my office called The Birth of Light that I created for my wedding to Michael back in 2001, actually, 2001. So we have Aquarius at 1 degree, lasting values. Saturn still at 6 of Pisces, support for community service and spiritual forces at work. We are not alone, guys. This is a challenging time, but we are not alone. Interestingly enough, this chart, as we have Pluto making moving into Aquarius, the sun's already there, moved there first, right? But we have a hammer of Thor here, the south node in Libra with the moon and Saturn. And so this can be, this is challenging. This is challenging, but it comes from our old relationships, right? Our old relationships. So that's something we need to consider. How have we related in the past, and how is that causing issues and disruptions in our relationships with our friends and enemies? Okay, friends and enemies. This feels to me like dealing with Russia for the US and dealing with the issues in Gaza as well. Week 4, we have Venus ingress into Capricorn. Notice Venus didn't go into Capricorn until Pluto moved out. Not that I can blame her. That happens on the 23rd. On the 25th, we have the full moon in Leo. On the 27th, we have a conjunction between Mercury and Mars at 17 degrees of Capricorn. So let's take a look at the symbols here. We have the full moon in Leo. The Sabian symbol for 6 of Leo, a conservative, old-fashioned lady is confronted by a hippie girl. The need to transcend our subservience to fashion and morals as well as clothes. And the Sabian symbol for the conjunction of 17 degrees of Capricorn, interestingly enough, is a repressed woman finds psychological release in nudism, the escape from bondage to social inhibitions and reliance upon the wisdom of the body. Interestingly, that both of these symbols are symbols of women, as is the symbol for 7 of Taurus, right? The Samaritan woman at the ancestral well. This speaks of this the woman at the well in Samaria who gave Jesus the water, right? Do you remember that from the Bible? Read this symbol in the Sabian symbols, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. And then week 5, we have quite a few lovely aspects, which we will look at. We have a waning sextile to Saturn of Venus. Mercury is making a trine to Uranus. Venus is making a trine to Jupiter. This is all sort of new energy as we move into February. And then we have Mars making a trine to Uranus, more change. So there is a huge, huge shift and change in January. It is amazing. I just like, as I go through these charts and all of this, I'm just amazed at the the potential and the capacity that we can have. Now we're going to look at Venus moving into Capricorn. Venus takes off her leather or latex outfit and sort of moves into more like business suit, or in this case, this outfit, right? Venus in Capricorn. Again, we're dealing with the Indian chief and the recognition of claiming power and the responsibilities that takes on. Of course, Venus is the planet of the feminine taking responsibility, empowering itself, and holding people accountable, perhaps. Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn and Pisces, support for community service. Let's support our people who are supporting us. Here's Venus in Capricorn right here. And we do have an opposition to the moon. Remember, Venus and the moon are active now while Pluto is in Aquarius on the tree of life. Okay. So we'll definitely see more issues around the feminine and the empowerment of the feminine in 2024. And of course, the election is a lot of it's going to be based on women wanting to get back their rights because they were taken away from them. Last gasp, as it were, of the patriarchy. The full moon in Leo, culmination of the seeds planted on the new moon in Capricorn. The moon is now at 6 degrees of Leo. Old-fashioned women and an up-to-date girl. The impermanence of values. The impermanence of values. What is thought important, morals, or even courageous, or moral or even courageous changes very quickly from one generation to the next. Courteous changes, even courteous changes. Sorry, courageous. Well, it's courageous all the same. Opposing the sun at 6 degrees of Aquarius. Performers in a mystery play. Our roles as agency for higher forces. Not only do we live out our human lives in simple workaday ways, but we also serve the function to bring higher mysteries to earth. The 8-year is about taking responsibility. We need to be very aware of our actions, of our thoughts, as we move through this year, because it is a year of instant manifestation. And it says channeling ancient archetypes in your own unique fashion. Full moon in Leo. The vibration for that day is the 8 of Wands, information coming in fast and furious. And we can see we have the sun up here in the 9th house for the United States with the moon in the 3rd house. Full moons, are always points of awareness. This new moon is square Jupiter. So Jupiter at 7 degrees, that's the Sabian symbol of the woman of Samaria, right? So we have the up-to-date girl, the lady, right? The lady from the past meeting the hippie girl. We have the idea of us acting as higher forces, squared by the woman of Samaria, right? All this feminine stuff. We also have one of these, and I forget, Anne Orderly talked about this thing that we have here, I think she called it a helicopter, but there is something about the way that the angles are constructed here that means something. Plus, it looks like we have a little bit of almost like a 5-pointed star, just missing like one part. But if we were to expand it, we might actually have a 5-pointed star here as well. All right, important stuff. Uranus on the 27th of January, stations direct. This is the last planet that was retrograde. And so as soon as Uranus goes direct, we're really flying. We're really moving forward very, very quickly. We have it at 20 degrees of Taurus. Spiritual forces. Spiritual forces, energies, and beings from other realms expressing themselves through our willing participation with unseen spiritual forces. Okay. It's also vibrating to the 36-9 vibration. 9 is an ending. This is the burden bearer. Perhaps it's time to hand our burdens over to spirit and ask for the help that we need. Okay. Unseen spiritual forces. Exciting times. In conjunct the South Node, our old relationships. January 27th, we have a last quarter. Now, there's a lot of stuff happening on this day. Was it this day or the next day? Anyway, we have the last sun making a last quarter square to Jupiter. This is a crisis in consciousness square, 3/4 of the way through the synod that began on the 11th of April of 2023. Optimism as a life path, abundance arising from the result of trust, optimism, synergy, sharing the abundance as a life principle. That was the initial conjunction of the sun and Jupiter, right? And it wasn't quite that optimistic in 2023, you might say. Now we're at this crisis in belief stage. Can we really make it better? Can we really have optimism as a life path? I say we have to have optimism as a life path or anything, because what you focus on is what you bring in. And if you're thinking of the pessimistic stuff, chances are that's what's going to happen. Now, things are going to happen anyway. Like, things happen even if we're optimistic. Not, it doesn't mean that bad things don't happen, but are bad things really bad, or are they just times and opportunities to change the way we look at it, right? Now we are at the crisis and belief stage of this cycle with the sun at 7 degrees of Aquarius. Freedom from old ways and standards. I like that. Dramatic changes occur when entirely new mutations occur that break the traditions of the past. Breaking with tradition. That's where the sun is, and Jupiter is at 7 degrees of Taurus, which again is the Sumerian woman at the ancient well. Breakthrough to a new spiritual level. We are breaking through to a new spiritual level. This is very exciting, guys. We're not living our old lives anymore. We are in really into a certain extent unknown territory, and it requires us to focus on that which we want to bring into our lives. Mercury conjunct Mars at 17 degrees. Did I go backwards again? I did, I think. Did I go backwards, or did I skip something? No, I didn't go backwards. Okay, I'm good. We also have Mercury conjunct Mars at 17 degrees of Capricorn, freeing oneself from inhibitions. This is the naked woman, right? Much of society's forbidding codes of conduct are unnecessarily prohibitive and can be unhealthy when taken to extremes. Freeing yourself from unhealthy prohibitions. We're still in that 10 of Wands burden bearer, right? The 10 of Wands can be beliefs that no longer serve us. It's a Sagittarius energy. And so it's time to let go. It's time to clear the path by letting go of beliefs that no longer serve. They can be religious beliefs. They can be beliefs of all kinds. This conjunction is square the nodes, We see the nodes of the moon right here, meaning that we have Mars and Mercury square the nodes. When Mars and Mercury are when Mars is square the nodes, it's like, what direction do we go? Which way do we go? We don't know. We feel stuck between the past and the future. With Mercury there, it's like our mind is stuck between the past and the future. The resolution node here is the South Node, yet again, of Libra at 19 degrees. The power of group dissent. Laws do not always preserve justice. Demonstration against unfairness is futile alone and requires group involvement. Participation in a new collective understanding, or participation in collective new understandings. Standing up for what you know to be right. Again, I'm not, That's all I'm going to say about that. You can take that wherever you want it. Okay. On the 28th, big changes. This is a lot to say. That's why I don't know if I should have done this all in one video, but I'll timestamp it so you can see it. Venus waning sextile Saturn, the point of the Venus-Saturn synod that brings the energy of progressive change. Again, progressive change. The initial impulse occurred at 25 degrees of Aquarius back on January 22nd of 2023, transforming emotionality into spiritual wisdom. The initial conjunction between Venus and Saturn was one of transforming emotional energy into spiritual wisdom. And we're at the point where we can put this into society to create progressive change. There is a state of consciousness above duality where we can hold in suspension two opposing emotions, rising above emotion to attain spiritual wisdom. Okay. Now Venus is at 6 degrees of Capricorn, a dark archway with 10 logs at the bottom. It is both wise and necessary to finish what we have started if we want to progress without being called back later. In a sextile to Saturn, support for community service. When we serve the needs of the group, we may expect to receive its support. We have to support each other through this process and probably support those people that align with our highest aspirations. We have on the same day, we have Mercury making a trine to Uranus, opens your mind to new possibilities. This synodic cycle, we're at the point of social rewards, began on June 4th of 2023 at 21 degrees of Taurus. A finger pointing to an open book, careful discrimination of wisdom. A balance must be found between receiving guidance and self-determination of wisdom, balancing guidance with self-determination. Now we have Mercury at 20 of Capricorn, spiritual fellowship. Putting aside the ego, we find the greater joy comes from shared celebration of our spiritual nature. In a flowing aspect to Uranus, spiritual forces. Hello? We have all the help we need to make this world what we want it to be. Focus on what you want to see in the world. If you're the type of person, and I know you guys are not, but if you're the type of person who wants more resources because you feel that you need to have more resources for your country or whatever it happens to be, you can align yourself, right? But it doesn't have to be, it can be for everyone. That's the thing. It's for everyone. It's Aquarius, right? It's Aquarius. And the last aspect to happen in January, as if we needed any more, but this is sort of putting on super fast, right? We have Mars making a waning trine to Uranus. You will feel a strong urge to break free of any previous restrictions or boring routines. You will have many unique opportunities to experience new activities, feelings, and relationships. This cycle actually began back on August 1st of 2022 at 19 degrees of Taurus, newly formed continent. This is the newly formed continent coming up. Let me just remind you that back in 2022, right around August 1st, was when we had the January 6th stuff happening with the house. Okay. When the mind is open, then the spirit can enter. Pure receptivity that sponsors spiritual breakthrough. That was the potential of that conjunction Mars Uranus. Now we're at the place of social rewards, guys. So is it social rewards or is it? Yes, waning trine, social rewards. Um, and we need to share our understanding. Mars at 20 of Capricorn, spiritual fellowship. Again, guys, putting aside the ego, we find the greater joy comes from shared celebration of our spiritual nature. In a flowing aspect to Uranus, spiritual forces, we have the power to change the world because we have changed ourselves. Okay, guys, let me stop the share. So this January is an unbelievable opportunity for us to create the world that we want to see. So as I have said over and over again, and for months now, and maybe a couple of years, focus on that which you want to bring into your life. Do you want to bring peace into your life? You must have peace within your heart. You must resolve the issues with the people that you have the most challenges with if you expect the world to be at peace. It all starts within, and Spirit is at the ready to help us. Call it spirit, call it aliens, call it what you want. We're all evolving together. This is our goal. This is another golden opportunity for us to take. Will there be challenges ahead in 2024? Most definitely. Can we overcome them and make this world a better place? Absolutely. Absolutely, guys. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was long. Thank you for sticking with me. I may actually chop this. I don't know how to do it. Maybe I know how to do it to put out each week, but we'll see what I can manage. My technical skills are not the best, but my ambition is big, and my hopes for the future are even bigger. Take care of yourselves, guys. Much love, and connect with spirit because spirit is on our side. Much love, everyone. Namaste.